Hey, and welcome back to the Talos Principle. We have reading to do, and so we're going to talk about the new gallery season. Sadly, I missed the end of the last one. I actually wanted to vote, but I kind of forgot about it, like at the end of that one episode. And I guess it's now close? Wait a second. Voting is now closed while we tally up the results. Of course, you may continue to explore the gallery at your leisure. How convenient. The vote was closed just before I got here. Wow. Good luck, everyone. I wouldn't let my newfound freedom come between me and watching the live results. Wait, did we free Kaiju? I should have written down like who we saved. I guess we freed Kaiju, Garrett, Sam. What's the other one we saved? Huh, doesn't actually matter. I should probably just make like a list and like quickly check, like scan the recording in between. Gonna do that probably like after this recording. Anyway, good luck everyone. We had it. The results are in. Drumroll. In third place, Knave with Where the Humans Live. I like that one. Definitely interesting, especially because like these people have never seen like proper houses, probably. My first placement, woo! A pity, it finally comes on the day Uriel begins pulling this place apart. Well, sadly. You can always have like a new gallery seasons in the outside world, don't forget that. It was a very tight competition this season for first and second places, and in the end it comes down to a single deciding vote. In second place this season is Mr. Mulciber with a collection of natural history curios. Really? I owe it all to you guys. Wait a second. Is that just like... Wait. Did you vote for different people? Because I did remember that Mr. Mulciber had like multiple submissions. I thought you would vote for like a singular submission. Because like the collection of natural history curios would make sense if you had a collection, but I thought like all of them were like singular. I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out for like the second voting season. Who won? Your lackadaisical approach to these announcements tires me. Please inform us who won. Wow, that's definitely how I would write that, clearly. I do like that we are still hearing a copy, by the way. Okay. Finally, first place this season by a single vote and next season's leading light. The winner is, everyone seems to love the skies, is Mr. I can't even talk. It's the Blacksmith 8 with his abstract collection. I don't know why everyone keeps voting for this guy when he never shows up in person. Bit holier than thou, if you ask me. And congratulations also to all those who voted for the Blacksmith. Be sure to check in for your rewards. Lilith, who exactly turned to vote? Lamb had the deciding vote as it happened. Have we seen Lamb? I should have probably checked that one. But this is definitely what I talked about, like where... Okay, the Blacksmith, I'm not saying that like the Blacksmith doesn't deserve the win, even though I would have to like actually recheck like which ones were by the Blacksmith. Was the Loop one by them? This moment doesn't actually matter, but like, you know, like the people vote for the Blacksmith because the Blacksmith seems to be like a winner. Right? Because everyone keeps voting for the guy, because it like uplifts everyone else. Which is important. Also, did anyone... Nah, we only get like Rockwell, Lilith, and Rockwell was 5 before. So, I guess. Unfortunately, you didn't select the winner and gained no profile status. That's true. I would have voted for someone. Okay. Receiving direct message connection from Rockwell. Done. Accept direct message? Sure. I mean, why not? Hey, I heard you abstained from the vote. That's cool. All these ranks and numbers just give power to the mathematicians. You and I, we could start a movement. Non-compliance. Bring down the system. What do you say? I mean, to be fair, I would have voted, actually. As I understand, this is precisely my mission. The system is already in its death throes. My mission is to preserve what I can, not destroy things. Okay, here's the thing. I do not think that the system that they have made with like different rankings is a great system overall. Like I mentioned, right? Like especially because, like, don't get me wrong, I think it's completely great to have like a system like that where like the winner of an art competition becomes like the next organizer for the next one. I think that's like completely fine, right? Like this is going to give you, even if you're just talking about like the value out of that, it's giving you like some sort of like social credit. I do think that voting for the winner should not give you a boost to like your whatever, like social standing or something like that, because it again encourages like kind of just keeping the same instead of changing stuff. And I do think that like especially in the beginning of like this new world, we are going to need change in a way. I really like the things that they have done with Gehenna, like many things, like the idea, like they're researching and stuff, and like again, like the art in itself, I think it's really fascinating that they're trying to create something. And it should be preserved. I just think that this voting system could lead to very bad, I guess, feedback loops down the line. And I don't like that for like the I'm gonna call it like the real world, like the world outside. Right, like to them this is obviously still the real world, but hey. As I understand, this is precisely my mission? I mean, not quite. And I also, again, like abstained mostly because like I made a mistake. But like the truth is, if that's like such an issue already, that like everyone's always voting for the blacksmith, not because, like, maybe the art is just like great, but like I feel like it's more because people like to get like their ranking. That might more sense. I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna say this is precisely my mission. Good to find another truth seeker in this place. I organized a few people, had Garrett tinker with the system a little, and scored you some decent upvotes. Since you're new here, spend them wisely and see you at the revolution. Terminating direct request. What does that mean? Do I get like, what does it score? Like I expected that I would get like a rank up for like a lot of upvotes, but I did not expect that I could spend them. Anyway. Congratulations for interacting positively with other citizens. Your profile status has increased from 4 respected citizen to 5 active contributor. You have received 1 thread creation token. This will be available to you the next time you log in. Okay, interesting. So this is how you... Why would you limit communication like that? I mean, in a very, I guess, like, power-hungry system, right? Like, if you're, like, a higher rank, maybe there comes, like, a point, like, again, moderators, I would assume, can probably create, like, as many threads as they want. And everyone else has, like, a very limited amount of them. So, communication is completely limited to what, I guess, like, the higher-ups want. Which is interesting. I feel like that's, again, like, I just see, like, all of the issues in here, right? Like, if you can't even have, like, free communication, like, maybe you can have, like, DMs, right? Like, direct messaging between different people in here, which we have not found here, right? Like, we have not had the opportunity to, like, chat with someone. We've only received a message so far. But yeah, like, I think it's just... It's going to be a problem down the line. That's just kind of what I'm saying. Maybe it's going to be different in the future, right? Like maybe this is just like once you reach rank 6, you have like an infinite amount of like threads you can open. I don't think that's the case. It feels like only if you're like a moderator, you have like all of these threads, and this is also why like everyone wants to have like the higher votes, because like if they rank up, they at least get to, I guess, communicate with us. Like properly, like freely. You can decide the topic of something, because like even before then, right, like I do see that like people enjoyed like Jefferson Goldblum episode 125, but like if that's the only entertainment you can create or like talk about, right, like if somebody has an idea for like another story that they maybe just wanna, you know, collaborate on or something like that, they couldn't do that, right? Like only the higher ups have a chance to decide that. But this one is by Mac, interestingly enough, who's like the same rank that we are, with like rank 5. So I'm assuming that they have gotten more of those tokens overall. And it's like I don't really understand the rules yet. This is going to be like a big thing probably for like the next few recording sessions, where I'm going to learn about that. Anyway, incredible stories. Incredible Stories, issue 5, featuring new work by Belial, Meg, Galatea, Mr. Mulciber, edited by Lilith and Meg. We have heard about like Belial before. They are like the ones that made the Underwater Night Quest, if I recall correctly, right? Had we seen Meg? Galatea, I don't recognize. Mr. Mulciber, obviously, like everywhere, right? Like in every single thread, basically. So, fiction. Alexandra's Choice. Ooh, interesting. I mean, they should have heard about Alexandra, right? By Galatea, since all of them were like banished from like their, banished. I still don't really get what exactly happened from like their puzzling, and they probably have found the audio logs by Alexandra, so it makes sense. The One Spiritual Law of Happiness by Belial. Non-fiction, The Blacksmith's Lost Work by Meg. Okay, that is definitely an interesting combination of words. Why the lost work? Why do you have the lost work of the blacksmith? I mean, you're the editor, right? And the blacksmith doesn't seem to, at least to our understanding, communicate. Was the blacksmith maybe, there are like two things that I could see. Besides just there's like someone who's like really shy and doesn't really like to communicate outside of like, throwing their works out into the world. It's obviously like the easiest one, but like there are two other ways. One is the blacksmith actually existed at some point and they for some reason disappeared and like somebody just took over the account basically. Or it's just like a pseudonym, right? Like this is also a possibility that's like someone there who does that. Anyway, I'm just gonna go like, I'm gonna call it like from, I want to say like chronologically, but that doesn't make sense. Like just, from top to bottom. It's okay. Alexandra's Choice. Alexandra's Choice by Galatea. Alexandra stood before the terminal and pondered her choices. Here, within the Pyramid of Aeon, the most powerful temple of her people, she was about to create a world. All she had to do was press one button. Up until this moment, it had seemed easy. Or if not easy, then so necessary as to defy contemplation. Civilization had to be saved from the impeding catastrophe. The orangutans had failed to take steps to protect themselves. How dare the orangutans, right? Had relied on their gods for a salvation that never came. The same fate could not be allowed to befall humanity. If this meant humbling herself, accepting her own death, then so be it. Interesting understanding of like the other beings in the world, right? Because like obviously for me it's so simple to just say, oh yeah, this is like a human-centric story. But if you don't know the difference between like a human and like any other animal, except for the fact that like the humans were the ones that wrote this thing, then you probably have like different interpretations of that, yeah. Anyway, but death was inevitable, life was a choice. But the warrior was the ones who would fail. All the lost souls of the new world, victims of the process. In creating them, was she not also responsible for their deaths? She turned to the statue behind her, gazed at its marble form. If you are a god, Zeus, as the stories claim, then why did you create evolution? Why did you make a world that can only grow through cruelty and pain? For a moment, surely, this meant death was near. She thought she heard him answer. My child, I was shaped by the gods that came before me, as you were shaped by me. The choice I had was between creation and oblivion, life and death, and I chose life, because any life is better than no life, because as long as there's life, there's hope. If not for us, then for some generation to come. Then how are you a god, if you can offer so little, she whispered, feeling death creep closer. I am a god because I take upon myself the burden of creation, the statue replied. Then we are all gods, Alexandra said, and pushed the button. As a new world came into being, death overwhelmed Alexandra Drennan. Her mind fled, and her body slowly turned to stone, until she stood before the terminal as Zeus stood on his pedestal. There were no more choices now, only the hope that creation mattered. Interesting writing, right? Yeah, technically, you could always interpret Alexandra and her team as gods of this world, like actual gods, like, right, like they created it, with like Elohim as a caretaker. But there's actually another layer to that, because like Zeus was mentioned here explicitly, and I am quite sure that like while Zeus was he like the father of like all the gods there? I don't think like the creation myth in that world worked the same way, right? I don't think Zeus created like the world. I might be wrong about that. I actually have to check that. I'm gonna do that like with a note, if I'm like completely wrong about that. Because like different religions, different belief systems had also different understanding of like the creation. I can obviously always compare it to like the Christian God, where it's like, oh yeah, there's like, you know, one guy who said like, hey, let there be light and let there be an earth, and then the earth was just there. But like especially Greek and Roman gods, they were like very, I guess, human in a way. Comparative, right? They were like fallible. They could make a ton of mistakes, and they sure did, like all the time, because they were flawed beings, and not all powerful, right? Like they had like their own domains, and they did that, and they could you know, tell stories because you understood you know, their general, I guess, preconceptions, and then you could continue. That kind of reminds me, like I recently watched like something about that, and like the specific of the videos aren't like that interesting, but there were like these archetypes that were used like in past theater, where you had like, you know, I don't actually know which archetypes there were, like I would have to actually look them up, but you had like the happy person and like the angry person, like something like that, and they would just be used like as archetypes in like a lot of plays, and you would always understand like this person. They had like these opinions, and you basically just put these archetypes into like different scenarios, and because like you already knew the archetypes and you could understand them, it was like really easy to get like into like to understand these characters and like their choices, and that made it a lot more I guess easily digestible, because you didn't have to like first get invested into a character and like all of their I guess intricacies when it came to like their belief system, for example. And instead you just had like a very, I guess, comparatively simple character, but because you understood them so well, that made like the action of the play a lot more interesting, because you didn't have to like invest like so much again into like the understanding of the character before or like their motivations before like the action could follow. And I think that there's definitely a similarity to like these old gods, where you had like a similar thing where like you could tell like a lot of stories about those gods because you understood them in comparatively simple ways, right, like as archetypes, and then you could have like the stories about them and you would understand that, right, like this character is very heroic, this one's you know, this one's like sneaky and backstabbing and all of that stuff, and you would know like this is the backstabber, and this story he's going to backstab someone at some point, like metaphorically. But yeah, why did I start about that? There was a reason why I talked about that. I think it was because we talked about Zeus here, and I still don't think that Zeus had like the power of like all of creation. Still though, which is like why I think it's like really fascinating that like Zeus was like in this place instead of like some other god. But yeah, like in this case, you could argue that for this world, right, like this world was created by the humans in the project, including Alexandra. It's just that Alexandra has like the most, I guess, the closest connection to every person inside of the simulation, just due to the audiobooks and the audio logs, which helped you like understand her thought process and like what was going on. And definitely reasonable to see as a work of fiction. I don't actually know if the people inside of here see the creating team as gods like that, because we definitely had like discussions about like whether Elohim is like a sort of god. I mean, he's like a self-claimed god in a way of this world, but some of the programs in here definitely were like more believing in this divinity, while others were like a lot more skeptic. But I don't think we had like big conversations about that when it came to the team outside. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 messages. I think there was like one that I somewhat misinterpreted about like the voice of a woman in the light or something like that, which I think is like the audiobooks, but it's like kind of the extent to it. I don't know, I'm just gonna leave it here. The One Spiritual Law of Happiness. The One Spiritual Law of Happiness by Belial. Once upon a time, there was a small lake, and on the lake was an island, and on the island was a prison. In the prison lived a male human called Musky Rag. Musky was very sad, because there wasn't enough space in the prison for him to experience happiness. I must discover the one spiritual law of happiness, he said to the other prisoners. A female human called Zine, and a neutral human called Krumpier, but they didn't care. He couldn't understand how they could be so calm. One day, Musky managed to break out of his cell by biting through the bars. Now he was no longer in the prison, and for a while he was happy, but then he realized he was stuck on the little island, and he became unhappy again, so he gathered his strength and swam across the water. This is how Musky got into the valley that surrounded the lake. The valley was much bigger than the island, and there were many interesting things here. A forest where all the trees were the color of lasers, a swamp with boats in it, a singing dog, and also a city where toasters live. For some years, Musky was absorbed by all this, and he was happy, but then he started feeling trapped again. The valley was surrounded by mountains, and as soon as they looked like prison walls to him, they soon looked like prison walls to him, he tried climbing the mountains and came to a bigger country, but even that was surrounded by oceans. Where was true freedom? Where was true happiness? When he'd almost lost hope, Musky met an old male human with a huge amount of white hair growing from his head. He lived in a small house by the beach, where dolphins and whales and sea elephants came to bask in the sun. He never went anywhere far from his house, but he was always happy. The old man's name was Quantum. Wise old Quantum, how can I discover the spiritual law of happiness? Musky said. I have searched for it everywhere, but I am always trapped. You have not looked everywhere, Quantum said, for you have not looked within. Close your eyes. Musky closed his eyes, and for the first time in his life he couldn't see any obstacles. No walls, no mountains, no oceans. The space within him was without end, and he could go wherever he wanted without even moving. He smiled. Musky went back to that old prison where he'd started, and now he understood why Zine and Krumpier were always calm. They knew they had an infinity of time and space to explore within them. Together, they sat in their cells and were happy and free. Okay. I kind of mentioned this some episodes ago, I think, where I talked about like the idea that even if we helped the prisoners escape here, like without like the upload process currently happening, they would still be, trapped, right? Like either in their cell, they would be trapped like in this layer, or like the multiple layers that they could reach, or like even the simulation, right? Like there would always be another wall. And like even we humans are technically trapped, right? In physical boundaries, or like metaphorical ones, if you want to talk about like the bounds of like society and like your culture and like your family and stuff. But like actually physical ones, right? Like it's really hard for us to go to space, for example, right? Like so like everything on Earth is technically the limit. It's just that we generally don't think about that because we don't get to reach the walls most of the time. At least like I don't, because I'm like in a privileged enough position where I could walk for quite some time without any borders, and there would always be something new to discover. Obviously there are like limits, right? Like there are places I cannot just enter even in this relatively free space, but there's going to be more to discover for me than I could ever see in a lifetime, even just here in Germany, for example. And okay, that just now made me remember like the one series by Tom Scott, like where he just visited like interesting places on Earth basically. And I say like on Earth, obviously, right? Like I don't think he ever got to go to space, but like every week, like a video about like some place for like many years. I don't think that the series still is ongoing, right? Like the guy took a break. Anyway, doesn't actually matter right now. Like the idea was basically to say, hey, you don't actually need fantasy. There's like so much beauty to see on Earth. There's like so much interesting stuff going on that you have never even conceived, basically. Right? Like both like the highest points and the lowest points you could ever go, and like everything in between. Just like interesting towns, interesting even just shops or something like that. And there's like so much to see that you could never be bored if you actually tried, basically, or like had like the financial means to reach it. That's like the next more important thing probably in our society. But like in theory, there's like a good chance you would never be bored in your entire human life. But these robots have all of eternity, basically, like supposedly. There's probably going to be like an end to that at some point as well, but like for them, they have like all of eternity. They are going to reach the end. They are going to reach those borders. They could explore every single nook and cranny. And at some point, right, like if you have like infinity, you have seen everything. And then those walls, again, like for example, like just Earth as like a giant prison, it makes more sense. If you've seen everything, then and cannot experience anything new, supposedly, then obviously it's going to feel quite different. But this is, again, just an issue due to, you know, the infinite lifespan, basically. But there's also like the idea of like imagination, right? Like if you look into yourself, you're always free to do, right? And again, like the idea that you are imprisoned is basically just, I say basically, like I would argue, comes in major part just from the fact that you have seen everything in like those four walls at some point, and you're not free to like experience more things outside of them. But I would argue, especially if you have like a lot of people, like you do not only have your own fantasy to rely on, you also have like the fantasy of other people to rely on. They are going to impact your surroundings. They are going to make changes that you could have not imagined. And you're going to make changes that they couldn't have imagined, right? Think of stories, think of art. This is like why I think it's like so fascinating that their first instinct basically was like to create art in this world. Not just research, but also art. To create like something new to experience in these very limited cells that they are living in. And yeah, this is like basically how they are achieving infinite freedom in a way, because like they are still communicating here, right? Like if they were only in those cells and got like a guidebook to like how this is how you use fantasy, I think they would still feel like imprisoned. I think the interaction that they're having with like the other people in this network is probably what makes them feel free. Because like, yeah, they could have imagined stuff, but like with an infinity of time, there's going to be a limit, I would argue, with like new things to come up with. There was like this one quote that they wrote about like how the reality is there to write fiction. What was the quote? I could probably figure it out. Like it's literally in this computer if I really wanted to. And if you're like that limited, I think, without like anyone to bounce off of, it's going to be hard to like keep your mind busy for all of eternity. That's basically what I'm getting at. Anyway. There is one last text, and we probably have like a few more minutes. Probably not, but I'm still gonna read it today. The Blacksmith's Lost Work by Meg. The Blacksmith is one of the most mysterious members of our community. All of us have our opinions, of course, but only the Blacksmith chooses to express them purely through art. To the rest of us, Gehenna means many things at once. We create, we consume, we discuss. But the Blacksmith only creates. Or perhaps there's a discussion happening, but it all takes place in the realm of interactive art. The Blacksmith's dedication to this one form of communication, however, only deepens one of Gehenna's great mysteries, the fate of the Blacksmith's Lost Work. Jerusalem, as the Lost Work was called, was posted in Gehenna for only the briefest period of time. Many had not even managed to start playing it when it vanished. Some had begun and felt quite impressed, but had not managed to explore it in the depth that it seemed to require. Then, suddenly, it was gone. Some suggest that the Blacksmith deleted it because it was somehow flawed. Others think it was accidentally destroyed by a glitch, but but that the blacksmith refuses to ever upload anything twice. Others yet, well, mainly Rockwell, think that it contained one of Elohim's secrets and was destroyed by a killer app that roams the world looking for leaks. There's also a theory that the moment someone finishes it, they were granted some kind of special insight, at which point the work deleted itself. One fact remains, it's gone, and every attempt to recover it from the database has failed. As has every private message to the blacksmith asking for it to be made available again. What was Jerusalem? What was it really about? We may look for hints in the blacksmith's more recent works. We may hope the file turns up again someday, but the truth may never be known. Okay, at least it explains how this is about the blacksmith's lost work instead of like the lost work of blacksmith that is getting uploaded here. Okay, that makes so much more sense to the title. Hello, camera. Great timing. Okay, this is better. I think that this is an interesting way to, like I mentioned this before, like this could just be like a person who just like posts their art instead of like being, you know, a pseudonym or like anything like that, or like I guess a dead old user whose account is getting used to like post something. It's definitely an interesting way to interact, right? Like just create, and maybe like I hope they're at least reading the other messages, but like as a form of self-expression. I don't know if I personally would commit to a bit like that, right? I think also consuming art is kind of important in the creative process, but that doesn't actually change the fact that many feel, I guess, moved by the art. And it seems like Jerusalem was like a game similar to the Underwater Night Quest. These are actually some interesting theories, because there are art pieces that are supposed to, I guess, just exist once to experience, right? I think that's, by the way, fine. I don't think that every piece of art needs to last forever, right? I know that there was like the big discussion semi-recently, and it's like still ongoing. Luckily, when it came to like the stop killing games and stuff, where like the idea is like games should be, you know, made available after like the lifespan, I'm gonna call it. But in this case, I don't think about that as like, I should probably mention, like, I am obviously for stuff like that, but I'm more for that, not because of the artistic value of the game, but like more about like the product side of it, right? Like, because I would feel rather scammed if I bought something and I didn't keep the product. But that doesn't mean that I think that every piece of art, if it like talking from like a purely artistic perspective, has to last forever. I think it's also fine to have like a piece of art just exist for a limited amount of time to experience. And it's like the one thing that people talk about it, right? Like I think there can be some interesting ways of expressing it be done. There's also like the whole thing that like, imagine like performances, for example, right? Like, and a lot of these performances are kind of just done once, because like once you figure out that it works, right? Like the idea of a performance, by the way, is also that it's something that you can fail to do, basically. And like once you've done it once, you already know that you can do it again, right? I think that kind of ruins the idea. And yeah, you could record a performance, and that is reasonable, but it's still very much removed from the original, basically, right? Like the original doesn't exist at that point anymore. Obviously, this is different to like, again, games or like, you know, paintings and stuff, but even paintings, like, there's like the one famous one, I forgot who it was, like the one painting that like in an auction basically got destroyed after the auction was done, right? I'm guessing as a message about like how stupid that was. I don't know. I don't actually know why exactly, like what the message was supposed to be. I would have to read up on that, but basically still an interesting way to deal with that, even though I would argue that, again, like this would be art as a product again, because, you know, somebody's paying for it. And that's, again, another topic. I think it's interesting. The blacksmith is probably going to come up like a lot more in the future. Since they seem to be like such an important backbone of the community, even though they themselves seem to not like interact with like a lot of the other people in here. But yeah, very interesting. I still need to, like, I'm gonna go back here. Can I go to, where is it? Gallery season? Can I go to the attachment? Thanks to everyone who took part in the season. The competition is now over. The blacksmith has been selected as next season's leading light. In the meantime, please feel free to explore the gallery. I wanted to go into the gallery again because I wanted to see what the blacksmith did again. I do know that it was like something in the minimalism, right? Where was it? You're able to make out the small details. Okay, I already have the magnifying glass. Existence? It's this one. This is Rockwell. Okay. Classic notions of happiness. That's 4-1, okay. So I guess it wasn't in here, wait, somewhere else. I do remember, was it abstract? I think it was the loop one, right? Logic loops? Yeah, that's blacksmith. Okay, I was right about that. This is made by the blacksmith. Okay. But I think this might be the only one, right? Like the 6 dimensions was definitely by, was Milziber? No, also blacksmith, okay. Huh. I misremembered something, I guess. That's so unlike me. Who would have thought? Okay, so both of these are by the blacksmith. Interesting. Did they, like, and like natural history of exhibit that was mostly by Mr. Milziber, right? Where was the house? This is by Mr. Milziber, okay. So at least makes sense that you would vote for like the entire version, right? Because this is also by Mr. Milziber. Yeah, refuse to say. Am I not missing one? Minimalism? Were there like 3 in here? Where humans live. Oh, this is the one that I was missing in my mind, yeah. This is by Knave. I think they were like, you know, 3rd place, right? Still a cute little house. I just thought, like, okay, I completely misinterpreted that the last time I was looking. I thought it was like kind of like a shadow thing where you had like a slanted roof, but you couldn't see like the other side because of like shadows or something like that. But I'm just stupid. It's actually a flat roof and this is like a chimney. Okay, fair enough. I just misinterpreted that situation. It's okay. I make for the exit. Wait a second. I can still vote. Huh? Are you ready to vote? Yes, okay, exit. Why can I say okay? Okay. Did I break something? Yeah, I guess that's fine. In a historic occasion, we shouldn't be able to read that one because we're still level 5 at this point, right? Yeah, okay. So, we are actually over time already. Next time, I feel like I should be looking into how to solve the puzzles here. Because there are definitely some puzzles I don't know how to solve yet. And by that I mostly mean like the stars, because there are like some still missing. I need like a blue one here, right? Am I doing this right now? This might actually lead us to the star over there, because there's like one on the gate. You know what? I'm gonna do that. Like, this might be like slightly overtime. I might just try like once or twice. We need a blue laser, but like the idea is like the same, basically. I just need to bring the blue laser over here so we can open that gate, and the red one is going to go for the other side, yeah. Alright, I need to... No, wait. First of all, let's move you. Doesn't actually matter which one I move. I need to go over there. Need to connect to the blue one, then I need to connect to the connector on the side so we can have the laser going constantly, because I feel like the solution is going to be basically the same. I just want to know where you're going. Connect to you. Run quickly. Okay. And then I just need to, you know, reach the blue one on the other side, and I can connect like the red laser on the other side again. It should be more than fine. This one. And the blue lasers over. Good thing I can remember that I can just right click, because it would have been really annoying. Okay, I'm gonna put you here. Okay, here's the thing about like this platform. Every single time I stand like this, I really struggle seeing that platform, and every single time I look at that, I'm just kind of confused because it seems like there's just like nothing. Anyway, this should be enough. You should be connected. Now the only issue is that I need to get the red connection, but we've done so before, so that shouldn't be like too hard. Oh wait, it's actually going to be an issue. because of how... Right, like this is going to... Oh, it's not going to break. They're actually on 2 different heights. Okay, that's perfect. Then you should be floating around. Okay. I was worried for nothing. You know what? I'm not gonna complain. I'm just gonna go over there, and this should lead me to the star, I hope. Because like otherwise I'm gonna need like a whole episode just to figure out like the stars here. I mean, I'm gonna still need like a whole episode. And we really get flung here. Look at that. Good noodle star number 2. I'm actually not sure what these are for yet. They might just be... No, those are like not the gray pieces. We have gray pieces like above us. These are the ones to open the door to admin, to my understanding. So I don't actually know where we would be getting those. Maybe I need like the star pieces to get those then? Maybe. Just my current theory. Whatever that means. In any case, I guess this is where we read like one last message. Luxembourg collected WLZ19. Freedom is always the freedom of the dissenter. And ASCII. How lovely. What a great message to end the episode on. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be seeing you next time, where we are probably going to do some reading and also figuring out how the stars work. In any case, till then, have a good one, and bye-bye.